I have so many coins to talk about. I think I'll skip a couple of the slides and just focus on certain things. There are literally way too many coins to talk about on this subject. It is, as late Marvin Tomenko mentions in his Monumental Coins book, which is a monumental book about ancient architecture on coins. There are literally thousands of coins with architectural types, and many of them are extremely descriptive, and some of them require some trained eyes to understand and interpret. And maybe during the presentation, I'll talk about details. Again, we're going to make this presentation available on YouTube, and I always post my presentations to my academia page. And if any of you would like to have the presentation in the PowerPoint format, just let me know and I will find a way to transfer it to you. The file itself is too large to send by email. I have to use WeTransfer or Dropbox to send it. But if you believe that you will be able to utilize the presentation as a PowerPoint, just let me know and I will make it available to you. Back to the topic. Let's go down. When it comes to how architecture developed, we have to look back, and even if we look back, we will not be able to see when it started. It must have started together with all the other basic needs the human race needed to develop to survive. When we focus on something, maybe we want to emphasize that thing the most, but I guess together with feeding ourselves and protecting our body from the climate impacts, finding or creating shelters was one of the earliest expertise that we developed from the beginning. When you look at the monuments of the visible civilizations, you can see that people had already developed an incredible expertise in building structures. If you look at the caves where people developed their first shelters, you can see that they divided the cave in a logical way for different groups of people to use that space, limited space. I'm sure they developed shelters in open land, which didn't survive to our day, but they started building structures from the beginning. That's we can be sure of. I selected a couple of pictures just to show you how people started building incredible, from very simple types of structures to very complicated and impressive structures. And you see they're all coming from different parts of the world. And yes, they are coming from different time periods, but as you see, people developed techniques, ideas in terms of architectural structure everywhere. And we cannot really attest the or contribute or attribute the expertise to a certain culture. But in many cultures, people developed ideas about structures. The book that I mentioned earlier, Marvin Tomyanko's Monumental Coins, is a very interesting and informative book written by a coin collector who happens to be an architect by profession. And that shows us how important it is to have a multidisciplinary action towards research in ancient numismatics. So if only archaeologists study ancient coins, their findings will be limited within their scope of expertise. And this is a wonderful example of an outsider, an expert or a trained person in a different discipline, put his knowledge into the research of ancient coins, and the end product is an incredibly wealthy wealth of information in the form of a book. So I definitely recommend that you have that book, acquire that book, and it is incredibly cheap. I can't believe that it can sell for $12, $15 now. Hardcover, color plates, or not color plates, but beautifully printed, good quality paper. So it's an incredibly informative book. And and he tells us about a lot of things that we would otherwise never learn from other coin books. So he talks about axonometric, for instance, obliques, linear perspective, and vanishing axis perspectives. And he talks about many other things when it comes to architectural types on coins. So after reading his book, your perspective about the architectural types on coins changes, and you look at them from a different point of view. There are, in my research, I've found three different types of architectural structures on coins: political ones, religious ones, and secular ones. And sometimes they clash. Sometimes there's a thin line separating the three, and they can, the message can be both political, religious, or political and secular, or religious and secular at the same time. So it's important that we look at these coins from a broad perspective, not from a very focused perspective. What makes a city is rather simple as it developed in the 7th and 8th century BC. You have to have city walls. You have to have a gate, later on colonnaded street, a temple. You need to manage your water resources. You have to have a fountain, a nympheon, a monumental fountain building, a theater. And if you are located by the sea, you have to have a harbor and monuments and many other things, of course. But these are the basic structural items that you have to declare yourself a city. And when you have those, you brag about them. I want to start with some early coins with architectural types that people would usually not notice as architectural types. So this is an electrum stater from Miletus, or as some other people pronounce it, Miletus, from 650 to 600 BC. You see a lion crouching, turning his head back and roaring. And there is a structure, actually, he is lying within. And it goes all the way to the right and turns back. I have other examples that show us the complete structure. And here is a sculpture from Miletus, located in Berlin at the moment. This is the picture of the ruins presently. And here is another coin, about 300 years after the first one, showing us that the city continued using its symbol, a lion turning his back and roaring. In this case, it's not reclining, it's walking, but all the same, it's the same type. So Miletus is known as the city of Hippodamus, the so-called father of the urban planning. He was also a physician, a mathematician, a meteorologist, and a philosopher, as most of the ancient nature researchers were. They actually didn't like to be called a philosopher, and they were nature researchers. And philosopher is a person who thinks and makes up ideas by thinking, but they do not think and make up ideas on their own. They research, they observe, they look at the nature, and they share their information that they obtained from the nature. Anyways, Hippodamus is considered to be the first urban planner, but actually, if you look at the Babylonian architecture, you will see similar structures. The grid system in which streets cross one another. And if you look at even earlier city plans, you can see that people started developing this grid system quite early. Another early coin from Delphi or Delphoi. This one, how the earlier numismatists identified this, I don't know, but they did a brilliant job identifying the reverse of this coin. So quadripartite inque square in the form of 4 ceiling coffers. And each one with its lid ornamented with a dolphin and a spray of laurel leaves. I tried to find photographs of the Apollo temple in Delphi, and this is what you have. So there's no way you can see the ceiling. However, I found this one from the Celsus Library in Ephesus, where you can see the similar ceiling coffers. And interestingly, many temples use the same structural methods to build the ceilings. There are mythological structures on coins that we might come across now or might not. And in this case, you would, the Labyrinth of Knossos is an enigmatic structure. And when you look at the coins, everybody knows what a labyrinth is. However, the earlier representations of the labyrinth on the Knossos coins are not what we would think of as a labyrinth. And when people started to excavate on the Knossos palace, and they noticed that it consisted of a puzzling arrangement of rooms on 2 levels with many zigzagging corridors and twisting stairways. So, and some of them leading to dead ends. And that's why people think that this palace was the birthplace of the labyrinth idea. So Daedalus of Athens worked for King Minos of Crete to construct this labyrinth for his wife's son. The whole story is extremely interesting. The Minotaur, a health pool monster. Theseus, son of the king of Athens, killed the Minotaur. Daedalus was shut up in a tower to prevent the knowledge of this labyrinth from spreading to the public. Since Minos controlled the land and sea roads, Daedalus set to work to fabricate wings for himself and his son Icarus. You know the rest of the story, how they tried to fly away and how they perished, or the son perished actually. So later, on later coins, we see different representations of the labyrinth. And finally, in the 300 BC, we see the type of labyrinth that we are more familiar today. I guess the idea of labyrinth that we have now comes from the 300 BC definitions of a labyrinth. And this continues into the Roman period. When you look at the bronze coins from Knossos during the Roman period, you can see the same depictions. No more these elaborate depictions. I think these look more like the Knossos palace designs. But later on, the idea changed. I believe they came up with this, square type of labyrinth. Again, an early coin with an incredible perspective plan. We have several items on the coin, on a small coin. This is only about 24, 25 millimeter. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 items at least represented here. The nymph of Chimera, pouring a libation over a flaming altar. And to the right is a bearded satyr bathing in a fountain basin. The chest dosed by a jet of water emanating from a spout in the shape of a lion's head. Obviously, it's not a dwarf satyr here. The nymph is in the foreground and the satyr is in the background. And the jet of water is really visible, and the libation act is ongoing. It is a moving scene. It's not a static scene. It's not a statue that we're looking at. So the artist made sure that we understand that it's not a statue. It's an active scene. And there is the perspective element. There is the distance element for us to see and appreciate the action that is going on the coin. Now, when you look at the architectural remnants from this city, you find these lion head spots, and they were, according to the excavators, they were the ceiling or roof spots. However, we see the exact same figure, lion's head, on this coin as a fountain spot. And when we look at other coins, even in Greece, not in Sicily, like this one, we see the same type of architectural element. And on another Greek, mainland Greek coin, on the reverse, we see the exact same figure. Water is running out of the line's mouth. So it's obviously not a living lion, but it is a roof spot or a fountain spot. But I would rather think that it's a fountain spot. And on the obverse, we usually have nymphs, and water and nymphs simply bring us to a fountain area. So the message is very, very clear. And here is another one from Trika, showing us the nymph of Trika filling up a hydra with water. So obviously the lion head spot is telling us that there is a fountain in that area. And here is another one, the Nike here, in this case, seated on a kippos and holding Kerkeon in one hand, an attribute of Hermes, and Hydra on her knee, sat on her knee, and filling up water from the spot coming. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, I guess it was set during the 1st century AD, if not earlier. My information is that they determined the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Then the Temple of Artemis, or otherwise known Ephesus Artemisium, is the subject of many, many coins. Apparently, it was a very spectacular building, built several times in ancient times. During the Roman times, it was repaired, but most important renovations or rebuilding happened during the campaign of Alexander the Great. And apparently, Alexander wanted to contribute to the construction activities, and they rejected his offer because they wanted to keep it as independent as possible. Anyways, it was a spectacular building housing the unique representation of Artemis at that time. And on the coins, we see very good depictions of this incredibly beautiful building. Now, we have here an octa-style temple depicted, and here we have a tetra-style temple. So, and they both belong to the same emperor. So they were both minted at about the same time. Is there a problem here? Are they trying to cheat us? Or how should we interpret this? Now, you have to understand the numismatic iconography principles before you start studying coins, or during the time that you study, you should learn this. The representative item doesn't have to reflect the exact same item that you want to represent on a coin. The main idea is that there is a temple there, and that temple has certain features. Whether it is depicted with 8 columns or 4 columns didn't matter to the peer viewer of these coins. They knew that that temple was originally built octa-style with 8 columns. So here I have two photographs from a hotel in Cyprus. They did a great job. When you look at it closely, I was there about 10 years ago, you don't admire the art, but still, I feel very, very happy to be there, just to immerse in the idea of walking around this great temple, even though the art was not very impressive. It was just, they did their best, but it was not what I would expect them to do. All the same, for a hotel to walk the extra mile and spend the extra money to have this design is exceptional, I believe. Anyways, this temple had column drums with beautiful sculptural work, and all of them had these. And on this coin, you can clearly see the artist did his best to show it to us. And in coin iconography, to show us the temple figure, the statue of the temple is shown between the columns. And the artist, of course, has to make way for the cult statue to be seen. So we know, and the ancient viewers of these coins knew that this statue was actually inside the temple, and the coin die engraver was simply putting it between the columns closer to us, for us to know that there is a statue like that. And in this case, you see the same thing. And then, of course, you can see that this person knew what he was doing. Look at the figures on the pediment. They are much smaller, yet they are also in statue-like positions. They are static. They're not moving. And here you can see that the statue here is not moving. It is static. And I think it's a huge accomplishment, no matter what. Here is another coin that supposedly represents another wonder of the ancient world from Rhodes in Caria. On the obverse of this deuteron is the famous head of Helios. And it is widely believed that it was inspired from the colossus of this city that was built at around 290s, 280s BC. And this topic continued to be the main item on the coins of Rhodes into the Roman period. This structure didn't last very long. It only survived about 56 years until the city was hit by an earthquake in 224 BC. The remains lay on the ground as described by Strabo for many years, and even broken, they were so impressive that many traveled to see them. Pliny the Elder remarked that few people could wrap their arms around the fallen thumb, and that each of its fingers was larger than most statues. Now, I would like to draw your attention to a certain fact. Thinking that this statue was completely made with bronze is impossible. Using that much bronze, it's not some undertaking that any king or any city would go about. It would have been extremely expensive, and I don't say technically impossible, but financially it was impossible. What they did was, most of the time, according to some statue parts excavated at Sagalassos in Pisidia and southwestern Anatolia, they built the head, the arms, the legs from, or some parts of them from bronze or marble, when they use marble, and then they dressed up the rest. So they had a wooden structure or a different kind of structure to represent the whole figure, and then they dressed it up with something so that you only see the visible parts, the head, the arms, and the legs made of bronze. And I believe that's why this statue was destroyed so easily as a result of an earthquake. And otherwise, it would have not, if it were a solid, even though, solid bronze, it would have not collapsed so easily. Earthquake, it would have not been destroyed so completely. So what they found was actually what was built, and the rest of the structural material simply disappeared because they were from perishable material like wood. So, interesting ideas to go into when you research these items. Another wonder of the world is the Pharos of Alexandria. And another deception here. This lighthouse was built on a small island called Pharos of the coast of Alexandria. Later, it was connected to the mainland, and it became a kind of harbor. And then you see many coin dealers and even catalogers defined lighthouses as Pharos, which is completely incorrect. The Pharos is the name of the island, and that's why it is maybe appropriate to call the lighthouse of Alexandria Pharos. However, the rest of the lighthouses were just lighthouses of those cities. They were not Pharos. Anyways, when you look at coins, maybe you can pay attention to this. You don't have to agree with me, but I find it incorrect to name all the lighthouses Pharos. Now, back to the coins. It was built in 280s, 285 and 247. That's the reign of Ptolemy II, and it served as a landmark for quite many years. And it survived until the 12th century AD, but it was destroyed during the two heavy earthquakes early in the 14th century. When you look at the coins, and again, I chose two coins from the same emperor, you see similar depictions, but there are differences. On this one, you have a solid building going all the way up and decorated with two tritons. And there is another structure on top of the main structure. And then it is surmounted by a statue. And the consistency here is that we have tritons again on two sides of this structure, and the top part, and finally the statue of Poseidon, most likely. And here is a coin from the time of Antoninus Pius. You see a more definitive or descriptive image of the structure. The entrance is here, and there is a spiral stairway going all the way up. The lighthouse area, and finally the statues. And you can see similar depictions later on. Here is a coin from the time of Commodus with a galley leaving the port. And here is a rendition by an artist from 1909, and you know, this is how he believed the original structure looked like. Lighthouses are quite common on coins. Here is an example from Sextus Pompey, one of the sons of Pompey Magnus. Here we see the lighthouse in the background and a galley, a military galley with rows entering the port, most likely. And on the reverse, we have beautiful rendition of Aeschylus wielding a rudder as a club. You know, both maritime related topics. And here is a coin from the provinces, Aigai in Cilicia, depiction of the lighthouse, the harbor, and two galleys, one in distance, and the other one is entering the harbor, and the lighthouse on top of the tower, and the statue of Poseidon, and this city's symbol, a crouching or sitting goat. So the city simply brags about its harbor, but you know, it's a maritime city. Here is beautiful medallion of Commodus. It depicts a whole scene. Again, it's not a static coin or the static figures. It's a moving action type of scene. The emperor is standing in front of the lighthouse, and there is a tripod in front of him. He's sacrificing something or libating, most likely, and there is another figure behind him. That's a priest, most likely, accompanying the emperor during the ceremony. They are welcoming the fleet, bringing grains from the other provinces. So apparently during 186, they had difficulty in finding corn, and Commodus sent fleets to different parts of the empire, and they brought corn from different places. So they're welcoming the fleet bringing corns from different parts of the empire. 1, 2, 3, 4 ships coming in, and then small boats welcoming them, maybe. Again, back to temples. Here is a beautiful depiction of a scene in front of the temple. Again, a sacrificial scene. it's a coin of Caligula. He wouldn't be considered the most pious emperor. In fact, he was not pious at all, but this was something that he had to brag about. On the obverse is the sitting pietas, the Roman personification of virtue. And on the reverse is the newly finished Temple of Augustus. The emperor is in his religious attire, libating, and in the background is Victimianus, ready to sacrifice a bull, and in back of him is a servant to complete the scene. Now, what we see here is a moving scene. It's not, again, a statue scene. Whereas in the background, we have a static structure with ionic columns and with figures on the pediment and other figures to complete the scene on top of the roof. I picked up two more examples of this coin just to show you the details that you don't see on other coins. And even on this one, they here in this small area, you see Aeneas advancing right, head left, turning his head back, holding Anchises and leading Ascanius. It's just an incredible view that the artist, you know, these coins were struck at about the same time, but they had to create multiple dies. And every time they created a die, they didn't mind adding something different. So I'll go back. You don't really see what's here, but here, maybe it's the same figure, but it's not very visible. It's not very visible on this one, but this one shows the scene very, very vividly. And of course, a garland hanging from the top of the building is visible on all of those coins. Again, we're at Rome, and I wanted to show you this spectacular view of the Temple of Janus. This god presided over the beginning and ending of conflict and literally war and peace. When the doors are shut, the country is in peace. When the doors are depicted, the country is at war. So the emperor, despite all his inadequacies in many different areas, is bragging about his accomplishment, saying that the country is at peace. So actually this coin was minted right after the Romans made an agreement with the Parthians and Armenians, ending a conflict which was not something that they were able to complete with victory. It was actually done through diplomacy rather than military campaign. Yet the emperor enjoyed the publicity by declaring this as an achievement. And on the reverse, the legend says, having procured peace for the Roman people by land and sea, the doors of the Temple of Janus were closed. Some experts believe that this was the spot this building was built during the Roman period. And then we have depictions showing the structure from a different side. On this one, you see the door is on to the right, and on this one, the door is to the left. And you see the zero angle oblique projection of the building. When you look at it, you know that the closest point is in the middle, yet it's a 3D, almost a 3D depiction of a 2D item on this coin. And we also have gold coins depicting or having the same topic depicted. And this one only shows the door of the temple. And this is the coin that I used on my poster, the Temple of Jupiter, Capitolinus. I believe it depicts the original building with all its ornamentations and sculptural work correctly, most correctly. Nothing extra, nothing missing. As you see, 3 statues that the temple housed were put in perspective. The columns are closer to us, and the statues are farther into the structure itself. As you see, there are 2 figures. They are also closer to us. So they're outside the temple. However, we can see that the figures, statues, are within the building, not in front of the building, or not right next to the columns. The soldiers of Vitellius burned down the Temple of Jupiter Capitolinus when the supporters of Vespasian barricaded themselves there. So Vespasian took this as a special duty for himself and rebuilt the temple when he became the emperor, and just kept the original size and the Corinthian columns, but just added new statues. And that's the main reason why we see so many statues, because he added them to the original building. And as you see, linear perspective with a sense of depth is employed here. So the artist that designed this coin knew what he was doing and planned what he wanted to achieve while engraving the dies. Another temple, and it is also a Temple of Jupiter, as we can see in the middle. The god Jupiter is depicted. It is probably the same temple, but this time we see 2 porticos on the sides. And you see that the artist used the vanishing axis perspective while designing this coin. Another structural type from the city of Rome, the erection of the Asclepius temple in Rome. On this medallion, we see the arrival of the snake of Asclepius to Rome. Apparently, in 229, there was some kind of a plague, and the doctors, the physicians, Roman physicians, were unable to help with, and they decided to go to Epidaurus in Greece and bring. I think they brought some doctors from Greece at that time, and they wanted to explain what they did in the form of the leaf of Asclepius. A serpent represented the healing powers of Asclepius. So here on this coin, they depicted a snake on top of the galley entering into the city under a bridge. One of these bridges, most likely, or earlier bridges that they had there. So upon entering the city, the serpent jumped and swam onto the island in the river. And they thought it was an omen, and they decided to build the Asclepius temple on that island. And here we see that scene happening, some structures in the background. And here is another example of the temples at Rome. Temples of Vesta and Dovius Romulus will be here. Again, it is very masterfully depicted on this coin. It's a round building with 4 steps to reach up the temple. And here is a ceremony scene. You can see the temple in the background. So the artist knew about the perspective, depth, and size of depth while creating this figure. And this is the picture of the ruins of this temple. And another temple that survived thanks to its conversion to a church. And you can see how closely it resembles the figure on the coin, especially the door. They kept the original door and the dome that survived history. Temples were important in every city, including the provinces. Here I have 2 examples of provincial coins depicting the city goddess that represents the city holding a temple or 2 temples. On this one in Cilicia, in Aigai, the city holds a temple. Obviously, the city was famous for its healing god temple, Asclepius temple. The city simply brags about the temple that it maintains. And here Tarsus claims that it supports 2 temples. 2 temples dedicated to the imperial cult. So Tarsus is the metropolis of Cilicia, so it had to brag about its superiority to the other Cilician cities. That's why it says that the city supports 2 temples. Later on, Anazarbus joined the competition, and Anazarbus also depicts temples, 2 temples, and even 3 temples on its coinage. Not only the temples, just representations of temples, but also architectural features are depicted on coins. Here is a coin from Neo-Caesarea in Pontus, in the Black Sea region and northeastern part of Anatolia. There are 2 temples here with spiral fluted columns. And this is not unique. There are other temples in the same ornamentation format. Here is one from Samos in Ionia. And even you can see that it's an Ionic style temple or shrine. Here is an example of a vertical fluting columns, and here is an example of a spiral fluting columns. So whatever architectural developments happened in actual life is depicted on coins. And then they went ahead and gave us an aerial view of a building, not just the building itself and what's happening in that building is also depicted, as we see on this coin that displays the Circus Maximus. Here is another example for you to appreciate the features of the building. And here is another one that gives us a better perspective of what's happening. But as you see, this one is not from above, but from across. However, this one is from above so that we can see the inner part of the building, just like this one. I mean, what a vision for a coin designer to have to depict such complex structural designs. And these are bronze coins, larger coins, rather 35 millimeter to 37 millimeter, but they even achieved that on small coins like this one, 20 millimeter, a gold coin of Caracalla. And again, the artist did a splendid job depicting the whole structure in as much detail as possible. Trajan's Forum, well, Trajan created some of the most spectacular architectural types together with Nero. On his coins, we see a lot of architectural elements, architectural examples of buildings. This is his forum, apparently. There are coins that depict the entrance of the forum, and then structures within the forum. So the whole line of Trajan's architectural types can be studied to learn more about his forum. And then one of the well-known structures of the ancient time, the Amphitheatre of Flavium, or Amphitheatrum Flavium, more correctly. It was started in 71 by Vespasian and finished by his son Titus in June 80. It could hold between 45,000 to 50,000 people. And here is an aerial view of the structure with all the spectators and the stairs within the building. And here is another example and the modern photograph of the remaining surviving building. As you see on this, on these coins, you have on the left-hand side, you have a fountain, a well-known symbol of the city, Metasudans. And on the other side is a porticoed building. You don't have anything else. And on this coin, you have consistently the same side objects depicted. When you come to the time of Gordian, which the building had to be renovated greatly during this time, you see more elements. You see a different type of building here. The Metasudans remains, but behind it is the Colossus of Nero is depicted. Here's an old, well survived. By the way, there are many Renaissance time replicas of this type. I hope to believe, I want to believe that these are not the Renaissance types. The catalogers say that they are from the original period coins or medallions. anyways, they're open to discussion. However, there are, I believe, original coins that show the Metasuddens and the Colossus of Nero on these medallions, together with the animal fight depicted inside. And in 217, they say it was struck by lightning, but I can't believe how a lightning can greatly destroy a structure like this. Maybe inside it had wooden structures and they were badly damaged. In any case, the repairs started during the time of Macrinus, and Elagabalus continued, but finally Gordian III finished the renovation work, and that's why we see these medallions struck during his time. Apparently, it was used for gladiatorial combat until the time of Honorius. And then for the last time, it was used in 523 by Theodoric the Great, the king of the Ostrogoths. We have the depictions of this monumental building on the coins of Severus Alexander. On his, this is a gold coin. Couldn't find a color photo of it, but the black and white photo is clear enough to see the details. And we don't see the Colossus of Nero here. This is really curious. It might be the choice of the coin die engraver. By the way, it is believed that during the time of Hadrian, the Colossus statue of Nero was moved here. It was originally in his golden house, and then it was moved to an area near the Flavian theater, and then later on it disappeared. So this is a picture from 1895. You can see the whole building here, and then you have the Arch of Constantine and the remnants of the Metasuddens and the base of the Colossus of Nero here. I think they are both completely disappeared now. And some artists believe that this is how the original statue looked like. And again, based on the theory that they didn't use bronze to build the whole structure. Look at this one, 103 feet, 30 meters high. Using bronze to build this would be devastating to any economy, no matter how strong that economy might be. And I found a medallion from Severus Alexander. Again, you don't see the Colossus here. There is a figure here, another figure there, and Metasuddens is here, but I don't think there is a statue here. So either the artists were asked not to depict the statue, or for some reason they decided not to include it in the scene here. And on the coins of Nero, we see the actual statue, which would be more appropriate for a colossal statue, so that you can make the feet, the arms, and the head from bronze, and the rest, as you see, dressed from other structural material that are more affordable than bronze itself. And one of the civic buildings that we see on the Roman coins is the Nero's magnificent structure here. And some architects believe that the Capitoline buildings in the US that you see at every state were all imitated or taken from this structure, the Macellum Magnum, one of the earliest representations of shopping malls. And luckily, it survived when it's converted to a church. So whenever a building is recycled, it survives. That happened everywhere in history. It changed its style, and it changed its original structure maybe, but somehow it survived, and this is one of the buildings that survived. Now we have Trumpful Arches that were actually freestanding buildings. They were not city gates. They were not otherwise used structures. But just to celebrate a victory in war, just to show off, they built these structures. On this one, you can easily see the quadriga driven by the emperor himself. On the left and right, two figures, Pax on the left and Victory on the right, and two figures on two sides, and the statue of Mars in the niche. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 niches with 8 different sculptures in them. And then the base area with all sculptures ornamented with sculptural work. And here is another one that survived. This one disappeared. The hatred towards Nero was so strong that many of his deeds were eliminated. But this one survived, 23 meters high, 25 meters wide. It's a huge structure, as you can see, for humanity. Creating such a structure, incredible. But this idea didn't start with Nero, or didn't start with Septimius Severus. It was there during the time of Octavian. Here is a simpler one, yet symbolically, it is surmounted by a quadriga driven by Octavian himself. The idea here is that the triumvir, in this case, is the leading force at the Republic at that time. And here is another one that lost to history from the time of Domitian. And on the top, unlike other quadrigas with horses, he has quadrigas, 2 quadrigas with elephants. And here is another one to overwhelm you from the time of Trajan. So many sculptural ornamentations all around it, facing again with quadriga of horses, an incredible example to sit and study for hours. Columns were also depicted. Oops, sorry. This is the famous column of Trajan celebrating his Dacian or Dacian victory, about 30 meters in height, 38 meters together with the pedestal. The shaft is made from a series of 18 colossal marble drums. These were all each separate marble drums put on top of one another, about 4 meters in diameter, 190 meters of frieze winds around the shaft 23 times. And inside the shaft, a spiral staircase of 185 stairs provides access to a viewing platform at the top. And when they first built it, a new statue of Trajan surmounted the column, but later it was replaced with the statue of Saint Peter by Pope Sixtus V. Much smaller, or half the size of the Trajan's column, was dedicated to Antoninus Pius the year he died in 161 AD. It was only about 15 meters and 1.90 meter in diameter. No ornamentation on the column. It was just, the base was ornamented, richly ornamented. It disappeared from history until recent years. They excavated it and they found the base, but the rest of the column and the statue on top of the column were lost to history. We see a lot of altars represented on coins. They were freestanding elements of temples. Unlike many people think, or unlike modern practices, many ceremonies in ancient times in Greek and Roman world were held in front of a temple where they would have an altar. Whatever libation ceremony, whatever sacrificial ceremony that you hold was done in front of a temple. And entrance into a temple was forbidden for regular people. You have to be an emperor, you have to be a priest, you have to have certain privileges to be able to enter the Roman temple. That's why we see these altars in front of many temples. And here I have an altar for Domitian, and here is one for Augustus at Ephesus. And here is a spectacular one from Amesia in Pontus, northeastern part of Anatolia, by the Black Sea. Zeus' altar, surmounted by eagles standing facing and looking left. And on above that one is Helios driving a facing quadriga. There are 2 trees growing on the side. They all tell us a certain story. But again, going back to the iconographic detail, these are all static figures. They are not moving figures, as you can see. Only the ribbons that you see here are not static. They are moving, they are flying. But the artist managed to give us the idea that they are not static items. They are just additions to the static items that we see on the coins. And I wanted to add a coin from the Sasanian Empire as a different altar here. It's a fire altar with fire burning on top of it. So altars are everywhere. Just a moment, I am trying to somehow. I'll just stop share and start again. Sorry about this. Something blocks my screen. And one more time, share. Huh. Okay. Anyways, here is a kind of shrine, open air altar from Selge in Pisidia, southwestern Anatolia. When you look at it, it is really difficult to decipher what's happening here. It is known as the sanctuary of Zeus and Heracles. There is a platform with stairway, as you can see here, and two lighted altars in the foreground. And there is a thunderbolt set on the left-hand side. And then there are two dead cypress trees. And there is a club on the right-hand side. So on this coin, you can see them better maybe, but I wanted to give you two examples of the same coin. Here, I think the thunderbolt is a better, is seen much better than it is here. And the club is very, very visible. But for the people of Selge, they meant something. And it was an open air structure, and it must have been revered and visited by many people. So it is a topic for a coin during the time of Antoninus Pius. We see a lot of kippus, kippi on coins, inscribed small columns. On this one, you see a propaganda piece by Augustus. He simply says that the Senate and Roman people to Caesar because the roads have been paved out of the money which he contributed to the treasury. So it was a freestanding structure or an architectural element just to advertise something the emperor did. And it was not only during the time of Augustus you see that. Here is another coin from the time of Domitian with similar inscriptions celebrating the secular games. And what I would like to draw your attention is to the obverse of this first coin. You have two, well, it's a complete sculptural or architectural scene. Again, a static scene in the background, the entrance of the city and the city walls. And in the foreground is a pedestal and a statue of Augustus on his horse. And this is an example of dedicatory kippus. It was in Adana, my hometown, I took that picture. And we have shrines everywhere. A very good example is again in Rome on this statues of Domitian. The emperor wailed and tollgate, standing and sacrificing out of patera over lighted altar. In the background, a shrine of Minerva showing two columns in the front and a third one here. And most likely there were other columns that we don't see now. And the statue of Minerva is in it. And in provinces, we also see other similar shrines, usually smaller buildings with only 2 columns or 4 columns, only housing a cult statue of a god or a goddess. In this case, it is the city goddess seated facing. There is a ram running to the right on the top, the Aries, and on the lower part is the river Euphrates swimming to the right. Then there are some enigmatic shrines in other parts of the provinces. This is one from Anazarbus depicting a shrine with a zodiacal wheel in the middle. I have been researching this topic in a while, and I think I'm almost ready to present it. Whenever the group is ready, I can do that. The Zodiac Circle was, I'm sure you will all agree, is really difficult to depict on such a small space that we see on coins, but it is extremely well represented on quite a few coins. And here is one as part of a shrine at Anazarbus in Cilicia. And here is another one from Acropolis in modern Israel. You have a small shrine, again, surrounded by the zodiacal signs around it. There were portable shrines like this one with wheels. So they were carrying it from one place to another with the beetle within the portable shrine. It is known as the car of Astarte. So there is a zodiacal image and belief system represented. And here is another one not too far from the location of the first one in Tyre, Phoenicia. This is also a portable one, but this needs to be carried by people. So not like the one with wheels. This one has to be carried, the same item inside. And here is another example to see the beetle inside. And here is another one that you can see the wooden carry lumbers underneath the portable shrine. There were other types of shrines, and a good example is again from Tarsus, with maybe a base somewhere in the city, but it is believed that they carried this. They sometimes consider it as a funeral pyre, but I believe it's not a funeral pyre, but it's a kind of shrine, a portable shrine that they carried around, and once the ceremony ended, they would bring it back to the pedestal that they designed for this shrine and set it on top of that. But very clearly depicted scene we see here. Bridges, another structural type that we see on coins. The best known example is here, the arched single span bridge across the Danube River. And here is one from Mopsuestia in Cilicia, with the river running through the arches, and the river god is reclining to the right, holding a cornucopia. The city gates here, and then another structure here. What is interesting on this coin is the lettering between the arches, Dorea. It means gift. So the emperor claims that he gifted this bridge to the city, but historically we know that this bridge was built before the time of Valerian, most likely during the campaigns of Trajan, or right after Trajan, when Hadrian started a huge structural campaign across his realm. In any case, just like today, when you renovate a monumental building, you put a plug, and they did the same thing in the past. And most likely during the time of Valerian, he contributed to the renovation of the bridge, and on this coin he brags about his contribution. They had pontoon boat bridges, and of course we don't have any examples of them survive, but we see them on coins. This one is from Marcus Aurelius. It's a Sestertius, and this one is really not well depicted, or the coin didn't survive well. This is a drawing from the book of Marvin Tomienko, and it shows us exactly how the coin looked like. And I found this photograph of Sestertius in color. You can see the boats, 1, 2, 3 boats, and soldiers led by the emperor are crossing the bridge. Aqueducts, some of them still survive. This is from the Roman Republican period, 56 BC. The monarch is Marcus Philippus, commemorating his ancestor on the obverse, and again on the reverse, because the aqueduct was built during the time of his ancestor, and the same aqueduct still survives today. And here is another example showing some part of the aqueduct with the genius of the Aqua Traiana. The building still, the structure still stands today, and some believe that they are still used partly to bring water into the city. We see monumental fountain buildings across the ancient world. As I said, to claim to be a city, you have to have monumental fountains. And this is one of them, built during the time of Severus Alexander and used on a Sestertius. It is advertised as a medallion, but as you see, SC, on the reverse, it's a Sestertius. It's a rather small coin, not a big one. In any case, it depicts the Nympheum of Severus Alexander with 3 arches on a different structure, most likely fountains. They had fountains. Water was running through this area, and there was a kind of fountain pool area in this part of the structure. And here is another nymphaeum from Tarsus with 2 fountains on each side. And there's an arch and surmounted by a quadriga and a scylla. Some believe that this quadriga was formed of elephants. Others believe it's a horse quadriga. And then they have 4 horses here, 4 horses here. 2 people are leading those horses. an incredible scene. And here is another example. Not well preserved, but I guess there are not many coins that are well preserved to see all the details. Yet we know that there was a nymphium, a spectacular nymphium at Tarsus. Nymphiums are everywhere. They are not rare structures, and they survive better than other buildings because they must have been used over the centuries and maintained so that they survive. Fountains, many of them survived, of course, others didn't. This one, the Metasudans we mentioned before, until 1900s, you could see the ruins of the fountain, but later on, during the time of great Italian dictator, who was supposed to be a lover of Roman Empire, simply destroyed it. Mussolini, I'm talking about, destroyed that structure, I think in an attempt to rebuild it, but then they completely wiped it out of the earth. And here is a coin from Achaia, South Greece, struck for Domitian, fountain with water running from two sides with the lion's head spots. And here is another one from Corinth. It is believed that it is an imitation of the Metasudans in the city. You have, of course, mythological fountains. Here is the fifth labor of Hercules. He cleaned the Augeas stables, and his hands are dirty. He's washing his hands, and also his rake is right here. So he's at the fountain cleaning himself up. And then you have other provincial coins with fountains. This one is from Sertica in Thrace. And then they have freestanding fountains. So if you think that freestanding fountains were modern inventions, that you go to parks and drink water, you are mistaken. They were known from very early ages. These are from 2nd, 3rd century BC examples, and here is one from the time of Septimius Severus at Nicopolis ad Istrum. City walls are represented on coins, despite the idea and how difficult it might be to engrave on 25, 30 millimeter space. Here you see how coin die engravers challenge us. And here is another one from Marcianopolis. Again, the city walls with all the towers. And this one is even showing the inner part of the city. And so is this one, the inner part of the city. Even the temple and even the temple statue are depicted on this small coin. And when you think that the architectural types are modern ideas that appear on the coin, you're mistaken. Architectural types appear from the beginning. Yes, I chose to show you the most elaborate ones, but here is one from Ura, Calendres in central South Anatolia. You can see the city walls and towers represented on this very early coin. City gates, other than city walls, are frequent coin types. This one is from Hadrianopolis, modern Edirne in Turkey, and this one Anchialos by the Black Sea, a port city. That's why you have Poseidon over the city gates. And on this one, you see the round towers, and they survive. As you see, the city really had round towers. Then you have structures that perplex modern researchers. This one is from Anazarbus in Cilicia, and it was first identified as an aqueduct, a waterway, because you see the river god swimming right here. But would you have such an elaborate building as an aqueduct? It's open to debate, but when you look at other representations from the same time, you see that the river god is lost. It is not depicted on this coin. You have similar arches and similar rectangular building, and then a pyramidal building in the background. And here is another example from the same time. They were all struck for the same emperor, Severus Alexander. So to me, this is the newly renovated city gate. It might be part of this structure or another structure within the city, but to me, it looks like that there are multiple scenes depicted behind the arched structure. You have another building here and other buildings in the background. It's an incredible scene that begs for more research and understanding. And luckily, good thing is that the city has been excavated in the last 8 years, and they are really working hard to finalize the excavation of the colonnaded street, which is quite long. And just an insider piece of news, they found over 10,000 coins so far. Not all of them city coins, many from the Islamic period, but I would be very eager to examine the Anazarbus civic coins from that excavation. Ports, of course, most people will know this coin, the medallion of Nero, representing the famous bird's eye view of the Ostia harbor. Interestingly, they have at least 10 different dies depicting the same topic, and in each one, the artist did something different. You have a structure here with the rest of the harbor buildings. Commonly, they all have a statue of Neptune, and some of them have 6 vessels in the scene. Some of them have fewer vessels on the scene. Some of them have smaller boats, fishermen maybe. Some of them have full sails coming in, but it's a topic worth examining and learning more. Look at this one, for instance. It just arrived, and it is releasing the sail, and they're getting to roll up the sail. And this one is in full sail coming in. and then maybe a military naval galley here, and this one is already anchored, and this one is anchored or getting ready to pull up an anchor, and another military galley maybe here. They had to build a second harbor when the first one was difficult to navigate during the time of Trajan. And in this one, you can see the buildings around it more closely. Many people, when they first look at it, believe that the artist didn't do a good job, but actually the artist did an extraordinary job to show the specific design of this harbor. And if you examine the artist's renditions from later times, you can see, you can appreciate the die engraver's job better here. And again, harbors did not appear on coins during the Roman period. Here is an abstract rendition of the harbor of Zancle under the Samians, immigrants from Samia in Western Anatolia, when they came and founded the city at the Messana, 500 BC. There is a dolphin in the center of the coin, but a sickle type harbor is around it. There are other renditions of the harbor with more features of the harbor, but I chose to show you this abstract art, actually. The idea of abstract art, many art historians believe, appeared in the late 1900s. They are badly mistaken. Abstract art was created many hundreds of years ago. We have harbors from other parts of the Roman Empire. Here is a slide with 3 coins, and I wanted to share my admiration of the artist's rendition of the scene. So this is, again, a static architectural art together with emotion depiction of figures. It's obvious that the galley here is leaving the harbor. You can see the water running here. There is a fish swimming here. And then I will show you, the figures in the ship. And here, this is from the time of Gallienus. This is Salonina from the same time. In this one, you see 3 or 4 vessels, actually. 2 ships leaving and 2 entering the harbor. So these are entering the harbor. These are leaving. And how do we know they're entering? Look at the figures. One is sitting on the prow, and the other one is standing on the prow and waving. Did the artist need to do this? Yeah, he could do it. He did it because he could do it. And he, in a static scene, he added motion and created a 3D image of the scene. It's an incredible artistic power to admire. And here is another one. Now we have even more ships. And then we have 2 figures on each end of the harbor structure, this here and here. And we have a fisherman And there's a fish, he's catching fish. And then you have, vessels entering and leaving the port. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vessels. Oops, okay. Now we have buildings with additional structures next to them. So here is a coin from Byblos in Phoenicia from the time of Macrinus. The temple precinct of Aphrodite. You have the temple here, and then there is a backyard with walls, and then within the walls there is a structural element depicted. So there is a fence, all within colonnaded court, stairway leading into the court, and this style temple on this part. So here is a drawing of this for you to appreciate better. And the altar is right in front of the temple. Maybe you can see it here. Yeah. And another impressive temple rendition on a bronze coin from Heliopolis at Coele, southern Syria, and the remaining ruins of the Temple of Jupiter, or Temple of Baal, actually, for the people of Heliopolis. Then you have the whole scene of natural environment. It's a mountainous area with lots of trees, and you have your structures scattered within the landscape. Here is a coin from Pautalia, struck for Caracalla. The city view, there is a tetrastyle temple here. And then there is another tetrastyle temple above, and then 1, 2, 3 smaller structures, and 3 figures here. In each shrine or structure is a statue or a person, and here is the statue of the temple. And I couldn't find any better picture of the city, modern Christendil in Bulgaria, but the whole area tells me that the coin die engraver did a very good job depicting the scene during the Roman period. And here is a coin from Corinth. In Corinthia. Look how accurate the rendition of this depiction on this coin. There is this huge rock hill, and on top of which is this temple. It was sacked by the consul Lucius Mummius in 146 BC. And it was refounded by Julius Caesar as a Roman colony in 44 BC. And the most significant feature of the city was its Acropolis, known as the Acrocorinth, a formidable natural fortress that dominated the southern isthmus of Corinth, thus controlling the only land route into the Peloponnese. And you can see all the details on the coin. The most revered city in ancient times, Athens, appear on coins on later Roman periods, not earlier ones. This one is with the Dionysus theater, the outcrop, and the temples on the top. And this one is from the south. Most people believe. Some want to believe that there is the Erection depicted here. I doubt it, but still, I respect the cataloger. But all the same, we know that it is the Acropolis of Athens. And here is another one showing the Acropolis with the stairway going up the hill. Other cities in the provinces have temples on top of mountains and hilltops. Zeugma is one of them. And this is a photograph from the north, showing the hill. The whole city was designed across the whole area here. About 20 years ago, a new dam was built, and the most important part of the city submerged, unfortunately. There was a huge effort to save what could be saved, and the mosaics that they excavated from this side required a new museum built in Gaziantep in southeastern Turkey. So, and here we see on this coin the scene, the depiction of the temple on top of the hill, and two stairways going up. Some want to believe that this was just the front yard of the temple, but and the walls, retaining walls around it. But in my view, it is the typical hillside view of Zeugma and its temple. Why do I say that? Because we see similar scenes on other coins. So when you examine coins with landscape depictions, you can appreciate the art on each one of them. Here is another one from Anazarbus. You have the Acropolis on top of the outcrop here, as you can see. And in the foreground is the bust of Zeus Olibris depicted. And here is another one from Decapolis, Pella, the mountain, and on top of the mountain is the temple, and then some structures at the base of the mountain. And here is a photograph that I found. This is not the structure that we see here. Most likely they call it a later Roman period a kind of temple, most likely, but it can be a part of the ancient structure too. And here is a spectacular landscape view from Amasya in Pontus. This is the modern picture of the era, and here is the depiction of the scene on a coin. I would just say hats off to the artist that created this coin die. Oops. And if that is not enough of architectural types that you have seen so far, here is one that tells us the construction phases. You have two figures on this one. Dido is known as the founder and first queen of Carthage. And this is a coin from Tyre in Phoenicia. So during the time of Valerian, they brag about their work in Carthage. Dido is supervising the construction of the city of Carthage. You have a worker here and a mason working on top of a tower or city gate, building this city. How more descriptive can you be? And here is another example of the same type with better features of the workers. This gentleman is working with a pickaxe, and the other one is laying a piece of stone on top of the city gate. And the queen, the founding queen, is supervising their work. And another example just to show you the details. They had supplemental architectural structures depicted on coins. They were not standing on their own, but they were part of an architectural structure. And here is a coin, a medallion from the time of Hadrian. On the reverse, we see Saulus standing and resting on the shoulder of Asclepius. And he's holding a catechos. It's a very interesting scene, but on the right-hand side, there is a column surmounted by a Priapus statue. And we see similar statues on other coins. As you see, they're not living people, but they are statues on pedestals with inscriptions. This one is from Philippi in Macedon. There are 3 bases. On the middle, you have the statue of Augustus in military dress, and he is crowned by Dives Julius behind. Obviously, it's a statue. And then here is another example from Lampsacus, statue of an Itapalic Priapus holding Cantharus and Tirsus. In the field is another architectural item, a lighted altar. There are some very good references about architectural types on coins. One of the oldest and best known book is the Architectura Numismatica. It's also known as Architectural Medals of Classic Antiquity. It is quite expensive. It is available, but there is an online version too for free. And I would definitely recommend that you consider obtaining this book if you are interested in architectural types on coins, the monuments of ancient Rome as coin types. Another wonderful book is Coins and Their Cities. Of course, you should consider Marvin Tomienko's monumental coins, especially it is so affordable. As I said, $12, $15. A hardcover book is very hard to find. And Civic Coins and Civic Politics is another book that I enjoyed reading and learned a lot. Finally, Coinage and Identity in the Roman Provinces is a book that contains several articles written by different historians and numismatists. There are certain things that I disagree, but still it's a good reference if you are studying architectural types. Thank you very much. And no, well, yeah, you're right. Vitruvius is also available online. Yes, you should consider checking the book by Vitruvius, the Roman architect and writer. It is the base of Architectura Numismatica, actually. And there is a lot to read. Thank you very much again, and I'll be happy to answer if you have questions.